My hands were trembling as I sat in that cold, mahogany-paneled room. The lawyer's voice echoed like a judge delivering a final sentence. One by one he read the names. To my son Richard, $25 million. My uncle Richard let out a breath he'd clearly been holding for years. To my daughter Victoria, $18 million. My aunt wiped fake tears and smiled. To each of my grandchildren, $10 million. The room filled with whispers and relieved laughter. Everyone except me. I waited, heart hammering against my ribs, for my name to be called. But the lawyer simply turned the page and moved on. Nothing. Not a single dollar. Not even a mention. I sat there in my simple black dress, the same one I wore when I visited Grandpa in the hospital every single week, and I felt the floor disappear beneath me. The man who raised me after my parents died. The one who taught me how to ride a bike, who stayed up all night when I had nightmares, who called me his little light, had left me with absolutely nothing. The worst part? My cousins were already hugging each other, laughing, already planning vacations in new cars. They looked at me with something between pity and triumph, as if they always knew this moment would come. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask why. But all I could do was sit there, shattered, while the only family I had left celebrated my erasure. That day broke something deep inside me, but it also woke something else up. The weeks that followed were pure darkness. I kept replaying every memory, searching for where I went wrong. Was I not loving enough? Not successful enough? Grandpa always said I was the only one who truly understood him. I worked in his company for years, not because I wanted the money, but because I loved being close to him. I turned down better offers just to stay by his side. Yet he gave millions to the same relatives who only visited him on holidays and when they needed checks signed. I stopped sleeping. I barely ate. Every night I sat in my small apartment surrounded by photos of me and Grandpa. Fishing trips, birthday parties, quiet evenings on the porch where he'd tell me stories about building his empire from nothing. The pain felt like a knife that kept twisting. Then one evening, while going through old boxes he'd left at my place years ago, I found something that changed everything. A letter, dated just 3 months before he passed. In his shaky handwriting, it said, "My dearest Elena, if you're reading this, they succeeded in pressuring me. The family never approved of how close we were. They made me change the will when I was weak and medicated. But remember what I taught you. Real power isn't in money. It's in what you build when no one believes in you. Look in the old safe at the lake house. The one only you know about. I'm so sorry. You were always my true heir. Love, Grandpa." Tears streamed down my face as I read it again and again. They had manipulated him. They isolated him in his final months, telling him I was only after his money. The same people who never called him unless they needed something. The betrayal cut deeper than being left out of the will. They stole his final wishes. They stole my last connection to the only father I ever knew. I drove to the lake house at dawn the next morning. Inside the hidden safe I found documents they knew nothing about, original shares, intellectual property rights, and a separate trust he created years ago, quietly transferring controlling interest of his most valuable private holdings to me. Not flashy cash, but the real foundation of the empire. For the first time since the reading, I smiled through my tears. They thought they had won. They had no idea the game had just begun. I didn't rush. That was the beauty of it. While my family partied and spent their millions like it would never end, I worked in silence. I used the assets Grandpa left me to start my own company, smaller, cleaner, and built on the values he taught me. 6 months later, my business took off in a way no one expected. The specialized technology Grandpa and I had worked on together in secret became exactly what the industry needed. Contracts poured in. Investors begged to join. Meanwhile, cracks started showing in their perfect world. Their lavish spending caught up with them. Bad investments. Expensive lifestyles. And then the biggest blow. They discovered too late that the main family company had lost its most valuable patents, the ones now legally owned by my new venture. The first time my Uncle Richard called me, his voice was shaking. "Elena, we need to talk. Family should stick together, right?" I stayed quiet for a long moment, then said softly, "You all celebrated when I got nothing. Now you want family." My cousins reached out next, suddenly remembering all the good times we had. The same ones who smirked at me in that lawyer's office. I didn't destroy them. I didn't need to. Their own greed did most of the work. But I did take back what was rightfully built with love, not entitlement. And when the company board voted to bring in new leadership to save what was left, they had no choice but to watch me walk in as the majority stakeholder. At the first meeting, the same faces that once looked at me with pity now looked at me with shock and regret. I didn't gloat. I simply looked at them and said, "Grandpa always told me the truth comes out eventually. I guess he was right." Today, I sit in the same lake house where I found his letter. The pain is still there, but it no longer controls me. I finally understand what Grandpa was trying to teach me all along. Sometimes being left with nothing is the greatest gift. It forces you to build everything on your own terms. It reveals who truly loves you and who only loved what you could give them. I lost my family that day in the lawyer's office. But I found myself. And I found the strength I never knew I had. And that, in the end, is worth more than all the millions they'll never keep.